All right, we are working on solving equations, and basically what we're going to learn how to do today is how to find the value of x. Your vocabulary word for this lesson is solution. The solution is the value of the variable in an equation. The value of the variable in an equation. So for example, let's say we have an equation 3 plus x equals 19. The solution would be the value of the x once we find it. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can work to solve this problem. The first way is called guess and check. Guess and check literally is just what it sounds like. I think this, I'm going to try it out, and then I'm going to check and see if that answer is correct. The problem with guess and check is it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of energy because you're just trying to figure out what's going to go in. So I know that 19 is close to 20, so it's going to be 3 plus something that makes it close to 20. So I'm going to try 17. All right, 3 plus 17 equals, okay, 3 plus 17 equals exactly 20. All right, so let me try 3 plus 16. 3 plus 16 equals 19. I think that this is probably the answer, but I'm going to go ahead and check one more down. So I'm going to go 3 plus 15 equals 18. Nope. 3 plus 16 equals 19. So x equals 16. X equals 16. This is your solution. So guess and check is one strategy that you could use. The next strategy is you could use mental math. Okay, so let's go through, and you may have used it up here. This was just an example of guess and check. So mental math is using the information that you remember and know about your math facts to help you solve the problem. So using mental math, let's say we had Johnny had some eggs in his basket. X represents the eggs he started with. So some eggs. 5 fell out and broke. So 5 broke. And he has 12 left. So there are a couple ways that you could look at this. If you know your fact families, you could say, okay, x minus 5 equals 12. So something minus 5 equals 12. So I can turn this around and I can say 12 plus 5 equals x. Because remember, it can be x minus 12 equals 5. It can be 5 plus 12 equals x. This is our fact family. So once I get these parts of the fact family, then I can say, oh, okay, x equals 17. So in this specific answer, 17 is your solution. Again, mental math, even though I wrote this down, this is something you could do in your head. You could say, oh, what minus 5 equals 12, or 12 plus 5 equals what, those kinds of things. So that's a second strategy that you can use. The third strategy is the one that's going to be the most helpful for you because what it does is it takes, no matter what the situation is, it takes a mathematical approach that's going to help you solve for x, no matter how many steps the problem is. And this is called get the x by itself. So get the x alone. So we're going to look at how do you do that. Let's say that you have an equation that looks like this. 4 plus x equals 32. The first thing that you need to know is that this equation has two sides to it. Two sides. Okay? It has the 4 plus x side. It has the equal sign, and the equal sign is what divides the two sides. And then it has 32. Much like when we were dealing with fractions, whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other. So when we look at 4 plus x, because we know our fact families, we know that we can switch it over and we can do x plus 4 equals 32. Those both mean the same thing. To get x by itself, we're going to have to use the reciprocal operation of addition, which is subtraction. And we're going to use minus 4 on both sides of our equal sign. When we do that, we are left with x. We don't have a plus or minus because that's a 0. We don't need to put anything there. Equals, and then whatever 32 minus 4 is. And 32 minus 4 is 28. We can do this with all four operations. We can do it with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So what happens if we have a problem that has multiple steps? Well, let me show you how that would work. This is a multi-step equation. And the way we're going to work this is actually going to be the opposite of our GEM-DOS. We're actually going to do the addition and subtraction. Then we look at the multiplication. So let's take, for instance, 4x plus 2 minus 1 equals 21. Now again, just a reminder, when we look at this, our equation is broken in two by the equal sign. And whatever we do on one side of the equation, we have to do on the other side of the equation. So we're going to start out and we're going to work from right to left this time. We're going to start out and work from right to left. So the first thing that we come across is this minus 1. The opposite of minus 1 is plus 1. So we're going to do plus 1 on both sides of the equation. Now remember, this cancels out the 1, so it's the same as a 0. So I don't have to put it down. It's 4x plus 2 equals 21 plus 1 is 22. Now, that's the first step. Again, I'm still dividing this by the equal sign, and whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other side of the equation to keep them equal. So I'm going to subtract 2 from this side because it's plus here. So we have to subtract, which is the opposite, and we're going to subtract 2 here. That leaves us with 4x equals 22 minus 2 is 20. Remember that we said when a variable is pushed up against a number like that it means multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide to get the x by itself. If I divide, I'm going to divide by the number, which is 4. Because 4 divided by 4 is the same as 1, and we know that 1x is the same as just x. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So that gives us x by itself equals 20 divided by 4, which is 5. Our solution is x equals 5. There are other examples that are listed in our notes pages. And so a couple of things that I want to just bring to your attention before we move on too much, because you will see them, is just a couple of quick reminders. So I talked to you about 4x being the same as 4 times x. Well, I want to remind you too that something like this, x over 3, is the same as x divided by 3. And the opposite of division is multiplication. So, multiplication and division are opposites or inverses or reciprocals, whatever you want to call them. And then addition and subtraction are opposites. So to undo addition, we have to do subtraction. To undo division, we have to do multiplication. And this should not be a variable. This should look like this. Sorry. We don't want it to resemble the variable. We want it to be its own symbol right here. All right, so how would we solve a problem like this? X over 3 plus 8 equals 14. Again, I'm going to look at both sides of my equation. I want to get x by itself. The whole purpose is to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides of the equation. This gives me x over 3, which is x divided by 3, equals 14 minus 8, which is 6. Now, to get this x by itself, if I'm dividing by 3, I now have to take and do x over 3 times 3 equals 6 times 3. So when we look at this, it looks like 3x over 3, which we know 3/3 is the same as 1x, so we don't even need them there, and we say, okay, x equals 6 times 3, which is 18. Now I've shown you how to solve for x. How do we know that we got the answer correct? Well, if we were to put this number back into our equation and we substitute it, instead of x over 3, we're going to put 18 divided by 3 plus 8 equals 14. We're going to double check that. So 18 divided by 3 is going to be 6, because 6 times 3 is 18. So 6 plus 8 equals 14. Is this true? Yes, it is true. Therefore, our solution of x equals 18 is correct. So we can check it by putting the number back into the equation where the x is. Remember that x is a substitute, it's a placeholder for another number, so we can always put that other number back in and solve for x, or solve it with the x in place. Okay? As always, if you get stuck or have any questions, please don't hesitate to come and see me. Have a great day.